Hello everyone! Today we are back with the Season 2 finale of House of the Dragon. The final episode of House of the Dragon Season 2 is called The Queen Who Never Was. And there is a lot going on with this episode, specifically with Damon at Harrenhal touching this weirwood tree. And if you know what to look for during this sequence, there are some pretty major spoilers for the current story, as well as the future. But fear not, there will be no spoilers from the books, and as usual, I'll just be giving you my thoughts, opinions, speculations, as well as ways the show might have deviated from the books as well. If you guys like what I have to say, feel free to drop a like and hit that subscribe button while you're at it, and without further delay, let's get into the video. Season 2 Episode 8 opens with a new opening sequence. In the past couple episodes, we saw that the Battle of Rook's Rest was added with Aemond standing victorious over the fallen dragons of his brother Aegon and Rhaenys. In this episode, we see Vhagar being repelled from Dragonstone by Rhaenyra and her newest dragons, since Hugh and Ulf claimed Vermithor and Silverwing last episode during the sowing. This episode truly starts with Tywin Lannister having to meet with the triarchy. The people of the triarchy are old enemies of Coralys and Damon during their war for the Stepstones, which is why Aemond sought them out. They try to extort Tywin for an outrageous amount of money. Despite living across the Narrow Sea, they know very well that the Lannister family lives on a literal mountain of gold. Tywin, of course, does not want to agree to their charges, but the Triarchy knows that he's desperate, and they use that to their advantage. Since Tywin doesn't want to pay with gold, they offer another exchange instead. If they help the Greens destroy the blockade and defeat Coralys, then they want the Stepstones if they win the war. A disputed group of islands between Westeros and Essos that is commonly used for trade. If the Greens give them the Stepstones, they want to be able to impose a tax on all ships that pass through it. Considering how much this place is used, it could be quite a hefty sum they collect too. Tywin doesn't want to agree to this either, fearing that Aemond will hang him for it, but he's desperate and coming back empty-handed would be far worse than this. So, he does agree to the trade, but despite reaching this agreement, there was still a fine print he didn't get to read. The admiral of their fleet, Shakaro Lohar, refuses to sail with any man who can't beat her. So if Tywin wants the fleet, he has to fight for it. So they get down and dirty in the mud, and Tywin Lannister shows that even as Master of Ships, the lion still has paws. So he ends up winning the respect of the Triarchy, and a little bit more because Shakaro Lohar is so impressed, she wants Tywin to sleep with her wives so she can have his children.
How many words do you have?
Well, it wasn't a no. After the last episode, having been faced down by multiple dragons, Aemond's position as the greatest power in the realm has come under threat. This fact angers Aemond, because for the first time in a very long time, Aemond is afraid. So, in response to that fear, he lashes out in anger to try to maintain that image of power. Aemond sees Rhaenyra naming commoners, bastards, as dragon riders to be an outrage, an insult, and sin against the Targaryen family. Like his nephew Jacaerys, he holds the Targaryen bloodline and the privileges that come with it in very high regard. And I even stated this as a reason for Aemond having such animosity towards the Strong Boys in a character analysis I made for Aemond a while back. The Strong Boys themselves are bastards, and when they were kids and they had dragons while he didn't, it must have really rubbed him the wrong way, especially with how society views bastard children and how much Alicent constantly talked down about the boys to her kids. But as Aemond watches the city burn, we transition to a burned Aegon. The king has been a wreck ever since Rook's Rest, but Larys Strong and Mr. Orwell have been pushing Aegon to his physical limits each day as Lord Larys has foreseen imminent danger. With Rhaenyra's new riders and Aemond's anger at losing the upper hand, it's only a matter of time before Aegon's life is put under threat. Aegon sees this opportunity of discord and desperation with Aemond as a chance to force him out of power. Larys says that even if he does get Aemond out of power, what happens when Rhaenyra descends upon King's Landing? Vhagar was the sole deterrent, and without her, he's pretty much helpless. Larys says that he's relocated the majority of Harrenhal as well to the Iron Bank of Braavos, and schemes to run away with Aegon and let Rhaenyra and Aemond tear each other apart. In Season 1, Aegon said he wanted to run away when he was caught by Aemond and Criston Cole. He didn't want to be king, and said that if Aemond let him go, he would find a ship and sail away. But now, as king, he asks why he has to run at all. He hardly sees the point in running and coming back later. He says his dragon is dead, he's burned, disgusting, and alone. And that his sausage was burned off during the conflict of Rook's Rest. Basically, everything that could have gone wrong with Aegon has gone wrong. His brother tried to kill him, his son is dead, and since he no longer has the proper equipment, he can't make any more heirs. Now, in the books, Aegon did actually have a second son named Maelor, who seems to have been written out of the show. He still has his daughter Jaehaera though, but the Greens are fighting for a male inheritance, so she would not be considered as his heir. The whole focus of this conversation is really Aegon's legacy. Aegon once said, "My son is my legacy." And with his son dead, and with him no longer being able to make another one, it seems that Aegon's legacy has been destroyed. So, what's the point? Lyris tells Aegon that there is still hope, that they can come back to Westeros one day when Rhaenyra and Aemond have destroyed each other. He can return and the people will rise for their king. He spins a tale for Aegon of who he could be in the eyes of the people. Aegon says he could be the Realm's Delight. The Realm's Delight was Rhaenyra's nickname when she was younger, and the people loved her so much. So it's an interesting choice for Aegon, but I also believe that it's very meaningful. Aegon is a character who always craved love, affection, admiration, things he never got from his family, but he did get from the common people, which is why he tried so hard to help them out in the beginning. Aegon wants to be loved, the way his sister was loved. Viserys always loved her more than any of his other children, and I believe Aegon calling himself the Realm's Delight speaks to his own personal longing. Maybe all this time he's been jealous of his sister, and how Viserys always loved her more than him. So this really showcases, in my opinion, the longing he's had for what was never given to him by the people that mattered. Aemond is furious about bastards being put on dragons. In an attempt to stop more people from going to side with Rhaenyra, Aemond makes an order that all the fishing vessels that come to and from King's Landing will be inspected. This will put a very big damper on the work of the fishing boats, which is basically the only real way the people of King's Landing are able to feed themselves. But Aemond isn't very sympathetic to the plights of the small folk like his brother Aegon is. He says they all must make their sacrifices, something that Jasper Wilde does not seem to entirely agree with. Alicent talks to Helaena, who asks why the people hate them so much. They were almost killed a couple episodes ago, so it's no wonder she's asking this. Alicent says that the people are unhappy, and when people are unhappy, they look for someone to hate. The people were starving, and since Aemond was in charge, they blamed him and his family, which is mainly because of Mysaria and her schemes, though. Helaena says that she was happier before she was queen, something that her mother Alicent can most likely relate to. Ever since becoming queen, her life has pretty much gone downhill. Alicent asks Helaena what if she could leave it all behind. Recently, Alicent has expressed the want to be away from everything, perhaps forever, but Helaena asks her mother where she would even go. Aemond comes in after that and asks Helaena to ride on Dreamfire to battle with him. Helaena says that she doesn't want to burn anyone. She isn't a fighter, but Aemond goes on to try and physically force her to mount her dragon. Aemond is desperate, and Alicent calls him out. He says that he's doing this because they're in danger, but Alicent says it's because his ego is bruised, saying that he seeks to rule yet rains down ruin and death on the people when he feels insulted. It kind of mirrors what happened with Damon in the Riverlands. Damon wants to be king, he wants powerful allies and people to kneel to him. In an attempt to gain that power, he has people commit war crimes to force people to kneel. But it only earns him the ire of others instead. I think both Damon and Aemond are going through their own respective journeys and realizing that they are not the men that they think they are. But Damon's arc for the season seems to have wrapped up, while Aemond's is only just beginning. So I guess we'll see how that goes. Aemond asks Alicent if she doesn't want to see them prevail, and she says, not like this. Not at the cost of innocence. Alicent has wanted to avoid war and senseless violence since the start of the dance, before Lucerys died and even after that. So when Aemond leaves, she comes up with a plan to pursue peace with hopefully no more loss of life. To do this, though, she goes to Maester Orwell in hopes that he can secure her safe passage and secrecy. Gawain confronts Criston Cole. He suspected that there was something going on between him and his sister Alicent. Gawain asks if he doesn't even think about his oath, and Criston says that his oath is all he thinks about. Criston Cole's honor has always been a driving force for his character. Gawain threatens to send Criston to the wall, but Criston says that if he did that, he would expose him, but Alicent too, and it would stain their family name for a generation. Criston says that he does have shame for what he's done, that his desire for women has brought him grief again and again. It was his desires for Rhaenyra and Alicent that, in my opinion, causes internal strife within Criston Cole, as he knows he's wrong in breaking his oath, but then I'm reminded of what Lord Larys Strong said. He once told Alicent that it's a sin to deny your appetites, so there is a conflict of what he must do versus what he wants to do. Gawain tells him to resist it, and Kristen says that it's easier said than done. Gawain says everyone else in the Kingsguard finds a way, but then Kristen questions that. Do they really keep their vows of chastity, or maybe they're just good at hiding their faults? He says that maybe all men are corrupt, and true honor is just a mist that melts in the morning. In Season 1, Damon said that each of us is capable of depravity. There is darkness in everyone. Maybe some are just better at hiding it than others. Gawain says that his philosophy is bleak, but Kristen says that he has no philosophy. For a long time, his philosophy has just been his sword, and now things are different. Kristen has understood war between men, but when dragons dance, men are like dust. Seeing the sheer destruction caused by dragons at Rook's Rest has changed his outlook on things. He has PTSD, most likely. He thinks that death would be a mercy at this point. Criston Cole has faced death multiple times, and according to him, Alicent has saved his life twice. The first time was when he almost took himself out after having killed Joffrey Lonmouth, and the second time he was saved from an execution. So we pretty much get confirmation on how Criston Cole got away with killing Joffrey. Alicent most likely advocated for his life to be spared, but Criston doesn't seem to want to be saved now. He believes that when it comes to dragons, men like him and what they believe no longer matter. At Harrenhal, Damon meets Alfred Broom, who's finally arrived with a message from Rhaenyra to ascertain Damon's intentions. Damon says that it's interesting that he's here, before they go off to the side and talk. Alfred hears words on the wind. It's hard to make out, but with the subtitles on, the voice speaking to Alfred says, "Traitor." Then, moments later, Alfred says that Rhaenyra has faltered, and though she has good intentions, what they need is a king. He says that Damon is a leader of men, and if he puts his claim for the throne forward, his men will follow him. Damon says he never took Alfred for a turncloak. He then laughs before walking away. Later, Damon is visited by Alice Rivers, who takes him to the Godswood. She says that Damon was a closed fist when he first came to Harrenhal, who sought to control his fate, but now he's ready to learn the truth. Damon places his hand on the weirwood tree, which is apparently modeled after the author George R.R. Martin himself. The sap runs down his hand like blood. Maybe this is what we saw in his hand a while back when he was hallucinating. The first thing we see, and probably the most shocking if you know who it is a young Brynden Rivers, aka Bloodraven, aka the Three-Eyed Raven from Game of Thrones. A Targaryen bastard who isn't born until over 40 years after the Civil War called the Dance of the Dragons has ended. Damon sees the White Walkers, what could be the Long Night. He sees dead dragons as well. At first, I thought that this might be Viserion from GOT considering what happened to him there, but as you look at the scene, there are actually multiple sets of dragon wings, which indicate that there are multiple dead dragons. This is most likely foreshadowing an event yet to come. Damon sees Daenerys hatching her dragons, but he doesn't know who she is. He sees the red comet that signals the coming of Azor Ahai, the prince that was promised. He also sees Rhaenyra seated upon the Iron Throne. Then in a stunning twist, Helaena appears out of nowhere. It seems her prophetic powers are somehow connected to the weirwood tree, and unlike most times where Helaena seems unaware of the prophecies that she's telling, she seems fully aware of what she tells Damon. She tells him that this is just a story, that Damon is not a player but a piece on the board in a much larger game, and he must play his part. She says that he knows what he must do. This is most likely ensuring that Rhaenyra takes the Iron Throne. As this happens, Aemond appears to Helaena to ask her again to take Dreamfire out to battle. Unlike earlier, Aemond has lost the mask of aggression, and we see the mask of a powerful prince slip away. This conversation is like he's begging Helaena, genuinely asking her for help, unlike earlier. There's even a tear in his eye in everything. Helaena then reveals that she knows that Aemond burned Aegon, that she saw it happen. But when did she see it? Was it before he left for Rook's Rest, or was he already on the way there when she had the premonition? If she had the chance, why did she not warn Aegon? Maybe because it was fate, and that it didn't matter. Aemond tries to deny what she's saying, calling it a lie. But Helaena says that one day Aegon will be king again. He has yet to see his victory. That he sits upon a wooden throne, and Aemond will be dead, swept away in the God's Eye, never to be seen again. The God's Eye is a body of water in the Riverlands near Harrenhal that surrounds the Isle of Faces. Interestingly enough, I believe the weirwood tree that Damon was touching earlier actually overlooks the God's Eye as well, and he was also given a prophecy of death by Alice Rivers. She told him that he would die in this place, so maybe we're gearing up for something here. Or maybe the death she mentioned was more figurative than literal. Earlier, she told Damon that he had changed since he came to Harrenhal. Perhaps the death she was talking about was the man he used to be, before being forced to confront his inner insecurities. Guess we'll have to find out. Aemond says that he could have Helaena killed for what she said, that it's treason. But Helaena says that even if he did kill her, her death would mean nothing. It would change nothing. The story is already written. So where will they go from here? Meanwhile, in the Vale, Rhaena searches for, and eventually finds, a wild dragon. This dragon is most likely Sheepstealer, who was actually on Dragonstone in the books, but it seems like things have been rewritten to get Rhaena more involved with the story. Rhaena has wanted a dragon for years, ever since she was a child. She wanted her mother's dragon Vhagar, but Aemond claimed her. She tried to claim Seasmoke, but he nearly killed her the last time she tried. So, for years, she's gone without a dragon, and her lack of one has made Rhaena question her worth as a Targaryen and as a person in general. So, she risked life and limb for what could be her final opportunity for purpose. But in her pursuit of greatness, she abandons her half-brothers, Aegon and Viserys. If Rhaenyra finds out that Rhaena abandoned her children for her own ambitions, how would she feel? What if something happens to them and Rhaena isn't there? She asked Rhaena to guard her children like a dragon guards her eggs. This may not end well if she shows up with a dragon, but not her sons. On Dragonstone, the dragon seeds begin getting accustomed to their new way of life. The most eager of them all is Ulf White, who seems to have forgotten that he was ever struggling in the first place. Now that he has a dragon, his bravado, which was just an act before, has been cranked up to 1,000. He sits in Rhaenyra's seat and neglects his training to indulge himself. When Jace chastises him, he shows no respect. He calls him a boy, and acts like he runs the place. Even after Jace's identity is revealed, he hugs him and messes with his hair, saying that it's as dark as they say and that they're cut from the same cloth. Now, this could be a reference to him being the son of Balon the Brave. This would make him Rhaenyra's uncle and Jacaerys' great-uncle by extension. So, they'd be family, but him being the son of Balon the Brave may just be a tall tale he spun to get clout. He could still be a Targaryen bastard, just not Balon's. So who knows if his true origins will be revealed. But on the other side of this comment is that Ulf is basically saying that Jace is a bastard like him. Jacaerys is still angry about the dragon seeds being allowed to claim dragons, and is still trying to maintain the image of a true-born Targaryen prince. So to have a bastard call him a bastard really sets him off. He doesn't like how carefree Ulf is either, so he yells at him and threatens to kill him if he doesn't shape up. As understandable as his rage is, Jace should be careful. These guys just got here, and this one already thinks he's above it all. One bad day, and who knows if he'll stay. Rhaenyra has a talk with Corlys Velaryon about his ship. He reveals that he changed the name of his ship from the Sea Snake to the Queen Who Never Was. The name Sea Snake was meant to herald his own glory and pride, his adventures and grandeur. But he says that now everything he does is for the sake of his wife Rhaenys. Coralys warns Rhaenyra that just because she has multiple dragons does not mean the war is won. Vhagar still roams around. Daeron, the other son of Alicent and Viserys, has his dragon Tessarion, and they're out there. Even though Tessarion is young, she is still a dragon and therefore a threat. So Rhaenyra has to be prepared for whatever comes and must make a move. Knowing that he could die in this war, Coralys wants to make sure he leaves on good terms with his first mate and secret son, Alan of Hull, who has been cold and distant with Coralys. Coralys says that he's trying to help Alan by giving him an elevated position in status and enabling him to lead. But this pisses Alan off, and he lets Coralys have it, even though he tries to dismiss him multiple times. He lets him know what his life was like, how he struggled to survive, how people looked down on him and his brother as bastards, how he watched Coralys live his lavish life with Laenor at his side, seemingly paying them no attention. It was only when Laenor died, his sister Laena, and then his heir Lucerys, who wasn't even related to him, that he acknowledged the fact that he was even alive. Alan feels insulted and hurt. He was abandoned so young, and Coralys can't even look him in the eyes. He feels like a backup plan, that he doesn't really care about him. Alan says that if he survives this war, then he will continue as he began, alone, without his help. Once again, Coralys' pride hurts the people closest to him. Jacaerys is also having some parental issues. He's still upset with Rhaenyra about the dragon seeds. He believes he's lost his legitimacy as heir to the throne, since Rhaenyra has proven that even bastards can claim dragons. But Baela comes along and tells Jace that a dragon does not define him, that she knows what he is and doesn't care. He wouldn't be the first noble heir who wasn't sired by his legal father. She tells Jace that if he really wants to be king, he has to prove his worth. Which is true, there are plenty of lords who are suspected of secretly being bastards in Westeros. There's even a Targaryen king in the distant future named Daeron the Good, who is suspected of being a bastard, and he has to put down multiple rebellions to reinforce his claim to the Iron Throne. So what Jace is going through is nothing new, no matter how concerning it may be. Even Aegon the Conqueror had to fight for his crown. There was no king of the Seven Kingdoms before him. He and his sisters had to fight to make their legacy. Now he does too. Rhaenyra has a feast for her dragon riders, and lets them know that despite what little training they have, they need to start making moves. Rhaenyra's plan, though, involves committing atrocities and war crimes. She wants to burn down Old Town and Lannisport so they can't support Aegon anymore. This isn't the first time a Targaryen has wanted to burn Old Town, by the way. Maegor the Cruel and his mother Visenya wanted to go there and burn the Starry Sept and kill the High Septon, until the High Towers killed the Septon for him and opened the gates. So it just seems like Old Town and dragons really don't mix. Hugh and Baela are very put off by Rhaenyra's request to kill innocent people. But Rhaenyra and Jace argue that this is a necessary evil that must be committed for the greater good. By breaking the will of their enemies, they'll have no choice but to surrender. Kinda like what happened with Damon and the Brackens in the Riverlands. Ulf doesn't seem to have any issues with this though. He's become very confident in himself and really steps into the role of Ulf the Dragon Lord. He even says that he'll fly against Aemond himself. That's a lot of talk for a guy who ran away and really got lucky when it came to claiming his dragon. He even goes as far as to call Adam a coward, and then talks back to Rhaenyra when she asks him to show respect, and then says that she needs a sense of humor. There are definitely going to be some issues here. Rhaenyra gets a letter from Simon Strong. He saw Damon talking with Alfred Broom and believes that there is something going on. So Rhaenyra takes Adam with her to Harrenhal. Jace seems very surprised that she chose him to go. This is most likely because Jacaerys is her heir and she doesn't want to risk his life, especially after Luke. At Harrenhal, she sees the army of the Riverlands, and when she walks into the hall, none of the people actually kneel to her, because they're sworn to Damon. So it adds to that tension of not knowing what he plans to do, but ultimately he does kneel to Rhaenyra, and then starts speaking with her in High Valyrian. He tells her that this war is just beginning. Winter is coming, and with it, the dark and the doom. Rhaenyra thinks that Damon sounds like her father, Viserys. Damon never believed in Viserys' prophecies. He never even knew about the Song of Ice and Fire. And now it seems he finally understands that this is much bigger than they are. Rhaenyra also tells Damon to leave her again at his own peril, basically threatening him. Damon says that he tried and that he couldn't. They then move to put their heads together and then back out at the last second. This has always been a sign of affection and endearment between the two of them. So I guess this kind of showcases that they're healing, but they're not all the way back to where they were before. But either way, I still cannot ship the two of these people or see the good in this relationship at all. And I don't think that I ever will. But either way, despite what I believe, Rhaenyra has her husband back, and now she has an army. Also, notice how after kneeling to Rhaenyra, Alfred Broom actually ends up leaving, slipping away during all of the cheering. He didn't seem too happy with Damon's decision. Maybe there was more to what that voice was saying earlier. Later, on Dragonstone, Rhaenyra is woken from her sleep by her Kingsguard. Alicent has made her way here because she wishes to make one final attempt at peace. Alicent is tired of all the war, all the conflict, all the politics. After seeing what her son Aemond has become and losing her power, Alicent just wants to be free. Her entire life, Alicent has been forced to play a part. Marry a king, have his heirs, groom those children to be rulers, but now she just wants to take Helaena, her granddaughter Jaehaera, and leave it all behind. But this time around, in parallel to their conversation in King's Landing, where Alicent said it was too late for peace, Rhaenyra is now the one who says it's too late. Blood has been shed, people are dead, and Alicent just wants to run away from what she caused. But Alicent says it's arrogant of Rhaenyra to blame her alone, as if she would never have been challenged regardless. Which is honestly true. Even with Alicent telling the council that Viserys changed his mind, Otto and the other members were always planning to make Aegon the king, regardless of what Viserys really wanted. So to put all the blame on Alicent alone is kind of unfair in my opinion. You also get to see just how stressed the situation has Alicent because she starts biting her nails, like she did when she was younger. Alicent tells Rhaenyra that Viserys never stopped loving her mother, that it was that love for her that made him hold to her being his heir. Alicent tells Rhaenyra that she'll open the gates for her when she comes to King's Landing, in hopes that when she takes the throne, the war can finally end. Rhaenyra then asks about Aegon. Alicent says that she can convince him to give up the throne, but Rhaenyra says no. Even if she wanted to let him go, she can't let Aegon live, because Aegon being alive is a threat to her throne. So she has to kill him for all to see. So Alicent's worst fears, what Otto told her would happen in Season 1, that Rhaenyra would kill her children to secure her claim to power, has finally come to pass. Alicent wants to avoid this, but Rhaenyra tells Alicent that she believes that she can have all that she wants without having to pay a price, the price that she has to pay. And this is clearly meant to mirror their confrontation in Season 1, Episode 7, when Alicent says, "Where is duty? Where is sacrifice?" when Rhaenyra always does what she pleases. They reverse the roles here to give Rhaenyra a more moral high ground. And to be honest, when I watched this scene, I honestly just rolled my eyes. Because, in my opinion, Alicent in Season 1 is more justified in her feelings than Rhaenyra is in hers in Season 2 during this conversation. Maybe that's an issue with me on my end. Maybe it's a bias that I have. But I do not buy this moral high ground that they give Rhaenyra in this moment. Because Alicent never had everything, even as a queen, being forced to marry a man she didn't love, having children she loves but did not want. Then the death of her grandson because of her son's actions. Maybe I'm missing something, but I just can't side with Rhaenyra when she says this, or when she says a son for a son when it comes to killing Aegon. It seems like a weak justification to kill her brother outside of getting rid of the opposition. Did she just forget about Jaehaerys, how he was murdered? Sure, that was Damon's fault and she didn't want that to happen, but both the Greens and the Blacks lost someone of value. It was a loss, and it hurt. Now she brings up a son for a son again. Why? Because the wrong son died, apparently? And to be honest, it shouldn't even be called a son for a son. It should really be called sons for a son, since it's gonna be more than just Aegon. Even if she did kill Aegon, there is still Aemond they have to fight. And then there's Daeron, Alicent's other son. Is she just gonna let them live because Aegon is dead? I highly doubt that, because as long as there are male heirs, Rhaenyra is going to be challenged. But ultimately, Alicent agrees to Rhaenyra's terms. She says nothing but nods her head before she leaves. She sells out her son, the man she has failed time and time again, for the possibility of peace and her own freedom. Rhaenyra tells Alicent that she will be remembered as a cold queen who grasped for power and lost. Which is kinda true. In Fire and Blood, Alicent is portrayed as an evil stepmother who hated her stepdaughter's guts and went to hell and back to try and stop her from gaining power. Either way, despite the deal they made, things could get tricky when she finds out that Aegon has fled the city. If Rhaenyra takes the city and Aegon isn't there, this could cause issues for Alicent. We end the episode with multiple armies getting ready to converge. We get a shot of Daeron and Tessarion with the Hightower host. We'll probably get a better look at them in Season 3. But perhaps the most interesting thing we find out is what happened to Otto and the reason he hasn't been responding to the letters. Someone has imprisoned him. My personal bet is on Larys Strong. Larys wanted to be Hand of the King, and Aemond shut him down and told him to get Otto instead. I wouldn't be surprised if Larys found him and locked him up. If this is the case, what happened to Otto when he showed up? Was he questioned? Was he released? Maybe Otto is being spoken to Essos with Larys and Aegon. Guess we'll have to wait 2 years to find out what happens next. All in all, this wasn't a bad episode, but this was not a finale in my opinion. Especially when you consider this season was primarily build-up and people have been waiting for war and political intrigue. And just when we're really getting into that, we have to wait 2 more years to find out what happens next. I also did not enjoy that ending conversation with Rhaenyra and Alicent. This did not happen in the books, and I'm not a Fire and Blood supremacist when it comes to changes, but this just felt unnecessary to me, and maybe I'll talk more about this again at some point in the future, maybe in a different video or something. But you guys let me know what you thought about this episode down below. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and I will see you all next time.